Hey guys, we're back doing the gold recovery from scrap electronics, and it's weigh-in time. The last couple of batches I did not do a weigh-in, and I really want to see what the yield is from these different sources. So we got our container tared, and we are in grams. And so we're just going to start loading up with this PCB boards first. So I was trying to calculate exactly how much stuff I had in here, and I estimate I have about 15 GPS units, mostly like Garmin Nuvies. I have about 20 cell phones, and I have about 15 flat screen TVs. So that is, I feel like, a good bit. Now, like I've said before, the yield on these is probably going to be low just because my understanding is this is just really plated material, and it's very thinner than, fingers you would get off of, a ram stick or something like that. I will also say this bowl will be much more compact when I settle it down. I'm just throwing this stuff in here right now, so it's really kind of building up. But when I had it laid in there earlier, it was not even maybe halfway up. So we can see we're at 700 something grams. So I'm thinking we're going to hit about 1,000 here. And so I'll show a couple examples in a second once we get this weight of how I clean the boards, but I definitely took my time and really cleaned these boards, got all the capacitors and stuff off, all the stickers, all the adhesive, all the plastics. Of course, I'm sure there's going to be some tag-alongs in there somewhere that I just missed, but for the most part, this should be as close to just PCB boards and gold as I can realistically get. Please excuse my messy desk. Okay, so that's all our PCB boards, and we're at 1,030 grams. So that's pretty good. That's like a kilo. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm really curious to see how much I get out of this. Most of this, so basically the main things we have are, these are the boards from the flat screen TVs, and they have all these fingers. They're not true fingers, I don't think, like you would get off of a ram stick. I think they might be plated fingers, but I mean, basically there are a ton of little contacts for the screen. And then I got our cell phones. This was definitely a cell phone. And so if you look, well, that's a bad example because that one was pretty clean to begin with. So I'll get this PCB board. It's hard to tell, but I scraped off all the capacitors, all the resistors, all the transistors, everything I could. I pulled the plastic off. Sometimes the metal prongs would stay, sometimes they wouldn't. I have a whole nother bag right there of all the plastic and mixed stuff. So this isn't tape, that's part of the PCB board. I grabbed all the tape, I wiped off all, ooh, hey, there's a finger. I wiped off all the adhesive, pulled all these steel fences, and I pulled as many of the chips as I could. Some, like this one, were just too stubborn to get off, and I just didn't want to deal with it, so I left those. But I basically cleaned off everything I could. With these, the main thing is all these have stickers, so I definitely got those off, like there was a sticker there. And then same thing, I just scraped off all the capacitors and whatnot, and then a few of them had some. Actually, this one is a perfect example of one I missed. There's a little bit of sticky foam adhesive there, and so now I'm left with this little adhesive, and I'm going to pull that off in a second. But I'm pretty happy with that. We're calling it 1,030. Now it says 1,032 grams of stuff. So this is the main batch of, that's like the bulk of what I'm doing. So the other thing I'm going to do is I have all these, what I'm calling fingers. These aren't true fingers, once again, like you would see off a mini board, but these are all connectors for ribbon cords. And you can see that gold there. I wish you could feel it. It's actually really thick, and some of these anyway, like this feels like a quality one that's got like a little thickness to it. So I've done these before, mixed in with a bunch of other stuff, and they very easily come off of the plastic backing and just leave the gold in the bottom. So I wanted to do these separate just to see how that worked out. I feel like once these are done and I clean off all the gold, I'll just have solution and gold in the bottom for the most part. There will be almost no debris, and that'll just be nice to look at. So let's do this one. We're going to carefully pour this into our hand and pick this one off the scale. And let's tare this. Once again, we are in grams, so that is at 0 grams. This I would not expect to be more than a couple of grams. 16 grams, more than I expected, honestly. You know, those are literally, I cut off all the ribbon cord that I could get away with that didn't have gold on it. So those are basically just the plastic backing and the gold, quote-unquote, fingers, as best as I can make it. There's very little else in there. So I'm really interested to see what that's going to look like. And over here, I just have some small little pieces. Most of these are chips. Some of these chips that I pulled off have, it might be hard to tell, but have gold not prongs, but gold contacts on the bottom. And then just a lot of SIM cards and a few just little bitty pieces that do have gold on them. But I don't want a bunch of little stuff in my big batch because it's just going to be tedious and cause issues. And I don't want it in the batch of little fingers because I'm just really curious to see the yield off those. So I would say the 90% of those little fingers are off of flat screen TVs. Pretty much universally, flat screen TVs have some sort of motherboard-like circuit board that connects from there to the screen itself, and oftentimes, most of the time, those ribbon connectors have gold contacts, and I usually find, 4 ends of gold contacts when I'm pulling apart a reasonable sized screen. So 4 grams, that is not much, but I knew it wouldn't be much. I mean, there's very little in here, but this is such a small beaker, I can just do a little separate batch with that, just like this one, and not have an issue. This one I may put in a larger beaker like this one so it can lay flat, but the next video will be us actually pouring solution into these containers and letting the first reaction take place. Just out of curiosity, so this is all the junk that I pulled off, plus some gold laden material that I just didn't want to mix in with all this stuff. Like this, probably from a printer, and it's just a ribbon with some gold contacts. A lot of this is like these plastic connectors that had gold fingers left in them. I didn't want to sit there and tediously separate all that. And pretty much all the scraps that I found, like the scrap gold fingers and stuff I would find on the desk as I was cleaning the stuff, I threw that all in here. Yeah, like this circuit board has a huge array of prongs, and it's got plastic, and I just didn't want to deal with pulling it off right now. So this is kind of like a mixed bag of junk that I would like to try to process, but this is, I hope, my issue with my last couple of batches. So 174 grams. Now a lot of this is non-gold weight, but I just want to see how much that was. That was just mostly all the stuff I cleaned off. So I think that's about all I have to say about this. So we had a good bit of weight on this one. I was really happy to see just over a kilo. I want to say this one was maybe 16 grams. I'll look back at the video to make sure I get the right numbers. But I'm really, really curious to see the yield out of this one. To see, you know, we start with 16. How much gold are we going to come out of that? Because I feel like that one, more than anything else, is the highest percentage of gold. I feel like the percentage yield out of that will be the highest out of everything I do. That would be like equivalent to doing nothing but fingers off of a ram stick or something. So we will catch you in the next video when we start our first reaction.